The day Marcus Chen's daughter stopped speaking, the world around him shattered into a silence more deafening than any scream. She was 5 years old, clutching a teddy bear in the back seat when the accident happened, metal twisting, glass shattering, her mother's last breath escaping into the cold air. Emma survived without a scratch on her body, but something inside her had broken in a way no X-ray could reveal. From that moment forward, not a single word passed her lips. Marcus would have given every dollar of his $4.3 billion fortune to hear her voice again. He would have traded his empire, his legacy, everything he'd built from nothing, just to hear her call him daddy one more time. But money, he was learning, couldn't buy miracles. It couldn't rewind time. It couldn't erase the image of her mother's empty eyes that had burned itself into his daughter's memory. The penthouse apartment in Manhattan became a revolving door of the world's most renowned specialists. Neurologists from Johns Hopkins, psychiatrists from Stanford, speech therapists from London's most prestigious hospitals. They came with their leather bags and confident smiles, their degrees framed in mahogany and their reputations preceding them like royal announcements. Marcus paid whatever they asked. Money was no object when it came to his little girl. Dr. Patricia Holloway was the first, a stern woman with silver hair who'd written 3 books on childhood trauma. She spent 6 weeks with Emma, trying everything from play therapy to cognitive behavioral techniques. Emma would sit in the sunlit playroom, surrounded by toys worth more than most people's cars, and stare silently out the window at the city below. "She's locked in there," Dr. Holloway finally admitted, defeat creeping into her usually authoritative voice. "I can see her trying to reach out, but there's a wall I can't break through." Then came Dr. Raj Patel, who flew in from Mumbai with radical new approaches. He tried art therapy, music therapy, even brought in trained therapy dogs. Emma would smile sometimes, a ghost of the joy she used to radiate. But her lips remained sealed. Marcus hired specialist after specialist. Dr. Sarah Kim from Seoul, Dr. Hans Muller from Berlin, Dr. Isabella Santos from São Paulo. Each one came with hope and left with apologies. The number grew, 10 doctors, 20, 50. He assembled entire teams, flew them in on private jets, housed them in luxury hotels. By the time he'd consulted the 100th specialist, he'd spent over $3 million on medical consultations alone. "Mr. Chen," the final doctor said, a kind-eyed woman from Toronto named Dr. Elizabeth Warren. "Sometimes trauma creates a knot that traditional medicine can't untangle. Your daughter needs something we can't provide with our degrees and our techniques. She needs to feel safe enough to want to come back to the world." Marcus stood at his office window that night, 70 stories above the glittering city he'd conquered, feeling more powerless than he had as a poor kid. Working 3 jobs to put himself through community college. His assistant had stopped announcing new doctors. His phone had stopped ringing with recommendations. The medical community had run out of answers. Emma was 7 now, still silent, still lost somewhere inside herself. It was a Tuesday morning in October when everything changed. Marcus had decided to walk Emma to school himself, something his busy schedule rarely allowed. His security team had protested, but he'd insisted. He needed to feel like a real father, even if his daughter couldn't tell him she loved him. They were crossing 5th Avenue when Emma's backpack slipped from her shoulders and burst open, spilling her notebooks and pencils across the sidewalk. Marcus bent to help, but someone was already there, a man in an orange vest with weathered hands, and a face marked by years of hard work under the sun. Got it," the man said cheerfully, gathering Emma's scattered belongings. His name tag read Miguel. Miguel looked at Emma with warm brown eyes and a smile that crinkled the corners of his face. "That's a lot of books for such a little lady. You must be real smart." Emma stared at him, and Marcus noticed something he hadn't seen in 2 years, genuine curiosity in his daughter's eyes. "I bet you're going to be a doctor or a scientist or maybe a teacher," Miguel continued, carefully stacking her notebooks. "My daughter, she loves books too. She's about your age. She wants to be an astronaut." He handed the backpack to Marcus, then turned back to Emma. "You know what my daughter taught me? She taught me that the stars are always there, even when we can't see them. Even in the daytime, even when it's cloudy, they're still shining up there, waiting for us to notice them again." Miguel pulled out a small, worn photograph from his wallet, a little girl with pigtails, grinning gap-toothed at the camera. "That's my Rosa. She'd like you, I think." Marcus watched in amazement as Emma reached out and gently touched the photograph. It was the most intentional gesture she'd made toward another human, being in 24 months. "Mr. Miguel," Marcus found himself saying, his voice thick with an emotion he couldn't name. "Would you have coffee with us, please?" They sat in a small diner, nothing like the five-star restaurants Marcus usually frequented. Miguel ordered black coffee and seemed uncomfortable at first, surely recognizing Marcus Chen from the newspapers, from the Forbes lists, from the business channels that documented his every corporate move. "I don't have anything special to offer," Miguel said quietly. "I clean streets. I didn't go to college. "You made my daughter smile," Marcus interrupted. 100 doctors couldn't do that. Over the next hour, Miguel talked about his life. He spoke about immigrating from Guatemala at 19, about working 3 jobs to bring his wife and daughter to America, about the pride he felt keeping the city clean, about teaching Rosa that dignity came from honest work, not from the size of your bank account. Emma sat between them, silent but present in a way Marcus hadn't felt from her in years. She was listening, really listening, leaning slightly toward Miguel, as if his words were sunlight and she was a flower that had been too long in the shade. "Would you come see us again?" Marcus asked when they were leaving. "Please, I'll pay you whatever." Miguel held up a weathered hand. "Mr. Chen, you don't pay someone for being kind. Kindness isn't a transaction." But he came anyway. 3 times a week during his lunch break, Miguel would stop by. He never called ahead. He never stayed long. He would just sit with Emma in the park across from the apartment building, talking about his day, about Rosa, about the interesting things he'd seen while cleaning the streets, a lost wedding, ring he'd returned to a crying woman, a family of ducks that had made a home near his route, the way the sunrise looked different every single morning if you paid attention. Marcus watched from the apartment window as his daughter slowly came back to life. She started drawing pictures for Miguel, still silent but communicating. She'd wait by the window for his visits, her face lighting up when she saw his orange vest approaching. 6 weeks after they'd met, on a cold November afternoon, Miguel showed up holding a small package wrapped in newspaper. "My Rosa made something for her friend," he said, handing it to Emma. Emma unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a handmade bracelet of colorful beads with a small star charm dangling from it. Attached was a note in a child's handwriting. "For the girl who is a star even when she doesn't shine. Love, Rosa. P.S. My daddy says you have the best smile he's ever seen. I can't wait to see it too." Emma held that bracelet like it was made of diamonds and gold. She put it on her wrist, then looked at Miguel, then at her father. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out at first, just air, just effort. Marcus felt his heart stop. "Thank you," Emma whispered, so quietly they almost didn't hear it. Miguel's eyes filled with tears. Marcus couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Those 2 words, the first words his daughter had spoken in 901 days, hung in the air like a sacred prayer. "You're welcome, little star," Miguel said softly. "You're so very welcome." The words came slowly after that, first in whispers, then in quiet sentences. The therapist Marcus brought back said they'd never seen anything like it. The breakthrough they'd all been trying to force had come from the gentle, patient kindness of a street cleaner who'd expected nothing in return. Marcus offered Miguel money, a job, a college fund for Rosa, everything he could think of. Miguel accepted only one thing: a meeting with the city's best scholarship advisors for Rosa. "She's going to be that astronaut," he said firmly. "And maybe she'll remember that her father's friend believed in reaching for the stars, even when the world said we were too small to touch them." On the day Emma spoke her first full sentence, "Can Rosa come play with me?" Marcus Chen learned what his billions never could have taught him. The most valuable currency in the world wasn't in his investment portfolios or his real estate holdings. It was in the simple humanity of a man who swept streets with pride, who saw a silent little girl and decided she deserved his time, his stories, his kindness. Sometimes the impossible doesn't require specialists or science or strategies. Sometimes it just requires one person who cares enough to show up. to be present, to remind us that we're not alone in our darkness. And sometimes, the most powerful medicine in the world comes not from a prescription, but from the gentle heart of someone who understands that we're all just human, all deserving of compassion, all capable of being the miracle someone else desperately needs. Emma still wears Rosa's bracelet. She's 10 now, talking and laughing and living fully in the world again. And every week, without fail, she and her father meet Miguel and Rosa in that same park. They're family now, not by blood, but by something deeper. By the understanding that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the connections that save us when we're lost, the kindness that asks nothing in return, and the love that teaches us to shine again, even after we've forgotten how.